Good evening, everyone. Ian Patrick here, and I know it's been quite some time since I've released a review. That's due to just really busy work schedule, and also I've been having camera problems. And I know I missed Halloween Fest this year. I love doing that, even though I don't get that many reviews on my horror film reviews. I love doing it. It's fun for me. But I do have some good spooky reviews coming out in the coming weeks, hopefully. But tonight we are looking at a genre that I revisit time and time again, and that is the action-adventure genre during the Napoleonic Wars, the British Royal Navy, Lord Nelson, and all that good stuff that I am just a huge sucker for. So tonight's movie is Damn the Defiant, or also released as HMS Defiant, released by Columbia Pictures. It came out, or it was filmed rather, in Europe. It was directed by Gilbert in 1962 is when it came out. It was written by author Frank Tilsley, and it came out under the story name Mutiny. That was what the book's title was. Now, this movie has a great cast. I mean, Alec Guinness is in this. The great Sir Alec Guinness. It also has Sir Dirk Bogarde. So both of them were sirs. And then we also have Sir Anthony Quayle. So we have three sirs that were knighted later in life. And interestingly enough, they all served in World War II. And funny enough, Alec Guinness, in this movie, he's the captain of the Defiant, Captain Crawford. But in reality, he was actually below both Bogarde and Quayle in the real military during World War II. So Sir Dirk Bogarde plays Lieutenant Scott Paget in this. I was thinking he was going to be sort of the hero, but he was definitely the villain of this movie. And Anthony Quayle plays a guy named Vizard. He's a lower just sailor for the British Royal Navy on the Defiant. So this movie was made actually during a break during the shoot of Lawrence of Arabia. Quayle and Guinness were actually both in that, so they both there was like a 2-month break during the filming of Lawrence of Arabia, and they were able to make this movie. And I'm glad they did, because this is a good picture to watch at least once, in my opinion. So Guinness really, really wanted Bogarde. He said that if he didn't have Bogarde, if he didn't have, quote, no Dirk, no Alec. So he really wanted him to be in this picture with him. The setting, as I mentioned, is during the French Revolutionary War. It starts, interestingly, with something I had never seen or heard of, and it starts with a scene of press party. Now, what that was the British Royal Navy would go out and they would basically force people into the draft to fight during the Napoleonic War. And they basically go to taverns and find any young men who aren't of noble status, and they press them into serving for their Majesty in the British Royal Navy. And it's really an ugly thing to do. That's something that would never happen in today's time. Can you imagine if that happened today? How many people would yell that their rights are being violated? I know it happened with Vietnam, but I don't think we'll ever see a draft ever again, at least in our time. So Alec Guinness, he's the captain of the Defiant, Captain Crawford, and his son, his little boy, is also, I'd say he's in his teens. He's going to serve as well on the Defiant with him. And this creates an interesting dynamic on the ship that I haven't seen in these type of movies, where the captain cannot show favoritism to his own son, because his son is sort of new to the Navy. Now, there's really impressive shots of the actual ship, the Defiant, for its time, especially. This isn't just a ship on a set like you would probably see in the Seahawk with Errol Flynn. They're actually out at sea on this massive ship. So there's really beautiful shots of the actual ship at sea, really good angles of it. And like I said, I thought Bogarde, Lieutenant Scott Paget, would sort of be the hero, but he was an annoying villain, guys. So he comes in thinking he's going to be a hot shot and call all the shots and kind of control, because he's like really noble and has a lot of connections. He thinks he's going to be able to control Captain Crawford, but he isn't able to at first. So what he does is he has the captain's son under him on the ship, and he basically tortures the boy and makes him do things. And by doing that, the captain is aware of it, and he can't do anything about it because he's not in control of his son, and he doesn't want to show favoritism. So Lieutenant Paget uses Captain Crawford's son to gain leverage against him, and you just hate Paget for doing this. You want to strangle him because he's just so annoying. Really good villain, though. It's interesting because Captain Crawford was a much weaker captain than I'm used to seeing in movies. For instance, he didn't just yell at Scott Paget. He just didn't yell at Lieutenant Paget like I really wanted him to, and he wasn't as strong with his men as I want him to be. But later in the film, he definitely rallied the troops against Napoleon's army or navy. But it was a nice change to see, a captain with emotions, not just the strong captain at all times. The story, it really isn't just an action film. I also like that. There's a lot of different things going on, especially with the son and the captain and Lieutenant Paget, but there's also the horrible treatment of the sailors on the ship. And this was a real problem during the war. And a lot of these men, this is actually sort of based on a true story in history where men in the Royal Navy, they did do a mutiny because of the way they were being treated. And in this story, spoiler, they are forgiven in a way. They are forgiven because of their... They did end up, recovering from the mutiny by fighting against the French in a great battle and winning that for the British Royal Navy. But I love that it showed how awful conditions were on the ships for them, and that they fought to have a better life, to have better life quality on the ships. This has an excellent performance by every actor, honestly. I mean, you can't go wrong with these actors, including Alec Guinness's son. He was a good little actor, I must say. Also note the lashing scenes. I feel like in all these types of movies, someone always messes up and there's always a lashing scene, but the lashing scene in this film was really good. The blood was convincing. I'm going to give this movie a 3 stars. I probably won't ever see it again, but it's, like I said, it's definitely worth one watch at least. It's more realistic than your typical Errol Flynn sea film, but this is much later than Errol Flynn movies. This is 1962 is when it came out. So things are getting a little bit more realistic and serious. I have more fun with the Errol Flynn films. I love watching those over and over again because they're romanticized. But this, good for one watch. The actual Defiant ship was named the Marcel B. Surdo, and it sank in Tampa, Florida in 1981. So it's sad to think that the Defiant eventually met its end at the bottom of the sea. Now, when I was watching this, I had been rewatching the great, fantastic A&E series Horatio Hornblower, which takes place during Napoleon, and it's a British Royal Navy series from A&E. And everyone, please, if you like this genre, please, you have to watch that series, Horatio Hornblower, from I think the late 90s into the early 2000s. You have to watch that. Much better than this film and basically any Napoleon, British Royal Navy film you'll ever see. So please watch that. Like this movie, 3 stars out of 4. Guys, hopefully I'm back for a substantial amount of time. I appreciate you all keeping your subs to me. And I've actually been climbing. I think I'm almost at about 350 now. Hopefully we can get to 400 soon and keep on climbing. And be sure to send some good Thanksgiving movie suggestions, and I can get some Thanksgiving reviews out. Of course, Christmas is coming, and I'll have to find some good classic Christmas films for us. But thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing your comments below.